begins passage from an eastward direction. Guardia Lombardia, Italy. From a corner village home cut inside the hills, rested below the mountains, overlapped by charcoal wire branches and olive-stained leaves. Gulfed forests are tired, and they're stripped and notched, and now rest on horse-drawn wagon, moving ever so patiently down a stone street towards another wagon. And when burdened, this wagon chases other wagons towards the water, towards a boat dock, towards some freedom. And the wood is planked and bended and shaped into a ship, holding Iuni, Amadio, my great-grandfather, Matthew Iuni's father, before this and later on, Amadio's brother, Peter, and his sisters, his cousins, appetites, dementia, the united rigor of dreams, entire forests uprooted and planted into Jackson. We continue planting and becoming Iuni in a stranger's mispronunciation, someone else's pencil scratch and stamp signature expands the gaps, jumps families and houses to marriages and to roots. Matthew and Teresa Dragonetti, tangled up in Michigan soil, the souls settling in a grocery store on Summit Avenue. More bodies born in Jackson, 3 children, 2 sisters, 1 brother, Mariana, Andrew, and Julianne. Trees are not barriers. Wood forgives the spaces where the cement unearths and rides up the family tree trunk. And our bark, it thickens. We are jobbers. We are time and a half. We are the assembly line at the electronics factory. We are the railroad in both directions. We are branches knotted from candy and tobacco and coarse stems, translucent leaf shoe shine veins, and baklava fish stains. We are the trimmed back depression in November and the blossom flower lemon water in April. Many rings circle you back to me in smaller branches, and I struggle, and I snap, or I fall beneath your weight, sometimes pale under now in the sunlight. Or maybe it's because there's a life you lived that is not mine to know. Or there's a life you live that is not mine to own. Or rather, this is a ghost story, without the horror, and instead one with a few secrets, some confusing dates, some mysterious coincidences. What happens is, I walk alone, somewhere in the peripheries, like when your body sunk into the orange recliner, defeated by the chemotherapy. Could this be a haunting between 2 men, a grandfather and his grandson? 2 voices that could not meet somewhere in the middle, because the middle, it doesn't exist. It overlaps in Octobers, when we both were born and you died, or the cracks running as the crow flies from the porch swing to the Virgin Mary in her tub. Maybe the blood overtakes our boundaries when I wear this gold ring, this cat's eye, around my finger, and I don your husky, breezy stroll like how your father, Amadio, strolled up to meet your mother, Marianne, at the corner candy shop along after church let out, in the priest-blessed air and water, wine, and the rain strained to lick stained glass Jesus crossbeam burdened window panes to Calvary. your obituary. You're survived by 4 grandchildren. I am the 5th, a ghost, shadowing the margins, spiriting that white space. I'm nobody's child. You are my ghost. You are a picture in a frame. You are my middle name. You are charcoal-rimmed reading glasses. You are impossible. But this much is true. Even without you, I can map you in the visible invisible, expanse, and the memory monuments spaced in today. My legs will pummel the streets as you guide me through the streets and the trees, and the graffiti, the asphalt, the kidnapped trash bag fences, and then I turn the corner, past your railroad tracks, up into the fields, and a boulder passed back into the shallow end of a hot dog stand, and then gone. From one job to the next, no light but grease film, projected on the lamps or clock, to count, to shift, chicken pox, so broken legs. There was another job to make you a busy man, a man of the people, a victory of the people. Your children never knew you to be home except sleeping, or dancing, or joking, in the early morning shuttered kitchen nooks and bread baskets. But you, like them, were born once, and then again, and you and your mother made life on Summit Avenue.
There in the corner was a house that my grandma and grandpa and their 4 children lived.
Okay. What street are we on right now? This one, right? This is 7 Avenue right now. Okay. And so where this parking lot is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where their house was. It was a large home. They lived there. And then next door to it would say probably right in this area was the grocery store. And above the grocery store they had an apartment. And then on the other side of the grocery store was 2 bungalows. And when I was a child, and Auntie and I lived there with my mom and dad. And then Julie was born there. And as Julie was like only 14, 15 months old, and we moved to Francis Street because we ran out of room.
Oh, okay. Did the store open up?
When my grandpa came from Italy.
Oh, okay. So that was a bit.
My dad was born in 1918, and so that's probably 1917 or something when they got married.
Okay. So they've been around for like almost 40 years,
It
like?
was in business for a long time, and
Yeah.
she carried all the staples and all the stuff, but she also carried a large selection of Italian foods and stuff. And we had a lot of people coming, Italian people coming, and she had the oil from Italy and big boxes of the macaroni. And, oh yeah, she had all that stuff.
That's how grandma was English too.
Yep, that's how grandma learned English, by reading in the store.
Okay. Interesting.
But I have to keep walking. Up Summit Avenue and over East Michigan. That's right. To your childhood home. To where you grew up and then where your family grew up. Leapfrogging rebellion. Imagining myself as one of your boys. The boys. The gang. The DG. Playing cards and rugby and winking at the Catholic school girls. This be women and my grandmother, Teresa Dragonetti, until you and Bill and another friend, you guys triple down and swoop up Teresa and her trees at Loomis Park. Notes hung high in the boughs, and the melody shimming the stray leaves to the ground. I am the friend, Nikki, just left of the frame. The stray leaves to the ground. It's me, grinning and carrying your sticky cleats, younger, and finding my hero. I asked your children to tell me your stories, beginning with my Uncle Andy at Iuni, the middle child, your only son, the other man in the family. But his main job was sales. He was a cigarette and candy salesman. Jackson Tobacco and Candy. And that's what Dad did most of his life. That's all I ever knew him. That's all I ever knew him. I know when he was younger, he told me he worked on the railroad, but I think everyone in Jackson probably worked on the railroad at some point. You know, like I said, I worked there, but that's all he was. He was a salesman. And Ma wasn't allowed to work. You know, no way. Her job was to keep the house and the kids. Yeah, Dad would work 2 or 3 jobs sometimes, a lot of times. And at some point when he was young, he loved to bowl. He bowled. He loved football on TV. He loved boxing. He fought Golden Gloves at one time. Yeah, I can't tell you exactly the years. Grandpa was a tough guy. There used to be this old bar way out Old Michigan Avenue, the Rosewood. And Dad would go there and sing. Dad loved being the center of things. He loved having fun and having a good time. He had a pretty good voice. To approach a voice from the outside is like waking up on a wood boat, a steel ship, a soft curtain that's caught in the wind. We're in water, and we know that home is behind us, and home is also in front of us. We're moving back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. The data tells me that my ancestors reached in logic and motive for money, for work, for friends, for family, for peace. They dug trenches. They sucked coal. They pounded railroad. They sold fruits. They shined shoes. They were loud. And they were loud. And this is what all the information says. It's not reporting Ellis Island immigration centers. Check for lice and disease. Check for language and origin. Check for intent and purpose. Check your pockets and your jewelry. I believe the facts are hitting history against waves here. I am waves drowning in sidewalks. I'm swimming East Gagnon Street, where you and fangled radios and televisions. The assembly line was much straighter, narrow, and quicker than my stroll along the fence, surrounding the debris, the downs, the wires, the partial chairs and tables and plastic coverings, the what was there and cannot be there again, or rather the two boys 2 years ago fired, fun, that left Spartan Electronics strip searched and gagged, held hostage, now by an anecdote about your father working next to you in the line for several years, told to me by my uncle as we talk and search the land or the unrecognizable for the recognizable and the familiar in the ashes. But really this is getting far too personal. Here's a thought in your heart that you do not know. Here's an object used for memory. Here is an artifact for knowing. Whatever needs recalling or conjuring like mouth, myth, religion, bone, legends. I pray to Grandpa's God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Place my faith in a man that never knew me, but in stories I lie or unpack or refold the atlas. This myself over and over again until we are always young men. We wear our faces handsome. We chase St. Mary's bells down Mechanic Street. We kill cancer. We sing and wine and macaroni, and photographs include both of us. Always. Like vines on vines, pulling each other apart.
Father John is a great salesman, and he knew, you cannot believe the people he knew. He knew. And he knew everybody. In fact, just last night, Joseph, I can remember going down to the horse races with Dad. He said, everybody under the sun knew him. And he'd say to her, hi, Matt, how you doing, Matt? And he said, your dad would say, oh, hi. And then he walked into a crowd and said, I don't know who that was. But everybody knew my dad. And when, I'll never forget the time we went to the zoo. I don't know which one, Toledo or Detroit, but we went to the zoo. And lo and behold, somebody at the zoo knew my dad. We ran into somebody at the zoo. I mean, you can't even go out of town if you didn't know somebody.
Many people.
He was a great salesman, too. He could sell anybody anything. Yeah, he was a great salesman. And if you went to some of his customers, they just thought the world of him. And he used to be, he had some cronies here in town, and they owned restaurants. They were Greek people, and they owned these Greek restaurants, and Daddy would, you always knew where he was when he came home, because you could smell the onions and all that stuff, because he'd be down visiting his friends at the Greek restaurants. Yeah, it was a good day. Was that the kind of stuff you wanted?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Grandma, Teresa Iuni, Grandpa, Matthew Iuni, Dragonetti, Capriccios, Jankos, Philomenas. This will not do. In my dreams, no wars drag you from the cities of our gods. No monsters line up at the doors with guns and bombs. The Nazis on our flowers, breaking sunlight and grass, their boots tapping the same stones and steps and streets you walked then ran. my dreams, Poppy's always a young man. Several handsome faces underneath mine. A shoe shine, a buckle strap, holding his heart in my hand so many years later in Jackson. In my dreams, Poppy lived the American dream. A grocery store on Summit Avenue, where our family bagged for the Italians, the Irish, the Polish. Angelina rolled cannolis and cream, frying dough in a pan. Because you are what you are, am what I am? What does this even mean? Am I my mother's son, her mother Dragonetti, but her husband an Iuni? I could be farms and blue and shimmer fish and the rosary. I could be war and starvation and 7-person sleep beds. I could be tuberculosis and bridges and gangrene toes and lemon water. I could be the Statue of Liberty. Let's pan back now. Let's open up the picture. Should I let another voice in? There are parts in the middle. This is becoming a memory of another person's memory, a memory voice. So I'll dig deep inside for facts and figures, data and transcripts. I'll dig deep inside for scripting and blocking and movement and expression. I'll dig deep inside for stories and bruises and smells and DNA and family. I will excavate fossils. Academic, formal, ego mumbo jumbo. Those are my skeletons. I will shovel my memory voice from inside grounds and outside lawns, uncoded, decoded language backyards. I will tunnel through my memory voice of accents and dialects and stereotypes, persuasions as I plow my performance over contexts outside narrators no longer speaking, lost among the shrinking borders. I mine these familiar growls, these voices, these whispers. Something grinding and rubbing against my mortality at 30. My heritage is geysered, the sky. It's raining down on me on these walks. I am inside my history unfolding against Italy, America, Julianne Mourning. My mother's neighborhood. It can only be contained on white printer paper, sketched, and then erased, sketched, and then erased, underlined, and inked in red, and then passed over with some colored pencils. What could she remember from those nights on Francis Street and living with Matthew and Iuni? Those were different days. Those were different times. When the present is safe and the light is rulered. This much is true. Pink shutters and white siding still left. But so many Easters ago, so many days ago, these shells are cracked and crumbled. What hides in a photograph? What is difficult to map? A brown brick house at the corner of Euclid, where my mother tricked and treated for red candy apples. A few houses east, the Underwoods, a messy house, and a grumpy lady. Julianne skipping her dad to Schoenhardt's party store for yellow flower Dixie cups. A tree stump surrendered to the ants. A lilac bush. A silver tinsel Christmas tree. an ice cream store, a meat store, can't remember the name, where we bought bologna and Coke and crackers. Of all this nothing one wears, like a body, this garment that fades, that frays, that ravels under the abrading fingernails of years, lights that have gone inexorably out, this perforated, cranky mind, of all these hours one chases after to turn them into mirrors, nothing remains but myth, memory, ghosts, walks and maps, visible and invisible jobs and buildings and ships and trees and careful passages from morning to night, tomorrow for today. A grandfather and his grandson, a man and a man, a voice and a voice, a ghost and a ghost, a story told in between.